Good evening, it's Terry Ryder from hotspotting.com.au. Those of you who regularly read my writing and my commentary on social media will know I have a particular view about media coverage of the housing industry and the residential property market, i.e. that it's appallingly bad. Last week I did a commentary via this medium focusing on an article in The Australian where I dissected paragraph by paragraph, showing that so much of the content of that particular article was factually incorrect. In fact, it was complete nonsense. The general tone of the article was that the inner city suburbs of Brisbane are having a boom and the outer suburbs are having a price crash, and nothing of the sort is taking place, as I think I proved in my commentary. Now, I could do social media posts of that ilk 5 times a day, 5 days a week. Because there is just so many instances in mainstream media of misinformation and really, really bad reporting and an absence of journalistic standards in covering this very important industry. And nowhere is that more so than on the subject of housing affordability, which is butchered by major newspapers and other forms of media on a daily basis. So we had an article this week in the Age newspaper, part of the Fairfax empire, and no doubt repeated in other Fairfax publications, with the headline, "Housing Risks Catastrophic," according to the Grattan Institute. So this is another outpouring from this so-called independent, I don't think so, think tank, which has a particular view of the housing market, and they've published their latest findings. The article in the Age began with the words, "Australia's 8-year house price boom has savaged the living standards of poor Australians." Australia's 8-year house price boom, really? Where's that taken place? Nowhere in Australia has had a boom in prices for 8 years, not even Sydney nor Melbourne. Sydney certainly has had strong price growth for the last 4 years, but that's petered out. Melbourne's had a similar pattern. But at the same time, Perth prices and Darwin prices have been going backwards. Prices in Brisbane and Adelaide have been largely stagnating. We've certainly seen an uplift in Hobart in the last 12 or 18 months, but it certainly hasn't been going on for 8 years or anything remotely like it. Canberra is starting to show some life, but it hasn't had a price boom for 8 years. So where has this 8-year price boom taken place? The opening words for this hatchet job of an article in the Age newspaper in Melbourne. Anyway, according to this report, the Grattan Institute analysis warns of a catastrophic impact on all income groups. Here's the qualification: if mortgage rates should rise by more than a few percentage points. So the whole basis of this so-called impending catastrophe is that mortgage interest rates are going to rise by 2 percentage points. In other words, given that most interest rate rises from the Reserve Bank, when they happen, and we haven't seen one for many years, but when they do, it's usually 0.25%. So that's 8 interest rate rises they're somehow factoring into their assumptions. But the Reserve Bank governor has made it very clear that they're not planning to lift interest rates anytime soon. They do say that they expect the next interest rate change to be up, but they're not expecting one to happen anytime soon. Most commentators and forecasters are not expecting any change to the official interest rate this year, but there may be some small change next year. So where does this assumption of 8 interest rate rises totaling 2 percentage points come from? Because that's the basis of the whole report warning of catastrophic outcomes. Based on what we're hearing from the Reserve Bank itself and from most respected analysts, it's just not going to happen. They also repeat this claim that we see in media almost every day, that new buyers, first-home buyers, are being locked out of the market. How can they say that when the official statistics from the Australian Bureau of Statistics show that right now first-home buyer activity in Australia is the highest it's been for 5 years, a reality that's confirmed by the latest quarterly survey from National Australia Bank? We have particularly high levels right now of first-home buyer activity, partly because interest rates are low, partly because price growth in the biggest cities has moderated, and but primarily because the 2 biggest states, Victoria and New South Wales, have introduced some attractive incentives to assist first-home buyers. Whatever the reason, we have a particularly high level of first-home buyer activity at the moment, and we had out last week a report from the Housing Industry Association showing that housing affordability in most of our capital cities is at levels which are better than the 20-year averages. So there's a lot of major research information out there from credible sources which completely contradict this claim in this article, if I can call it that, from The Age earlier this week, that new buyers have been locked out of the market. They just love to say that the Great Australian Dream is dead. Apparently, young people everywhere are doomed to a lifetime of renting, but the actual factual information completely contradicts that. Although I would not suggest for a moment that it's easy for first-time buyers to buy in markets like Sydney. Obviously, it is not. But the claim that everyone's been locked out of the market around Australia is just nonsense. So yes, yet another article in our major metropolitan media which far from being factual or balanced or fair in its coverage of the housing industry, particularly this housing affordability issue, is yet another hatchet job by individuals who don't deserve to be called journalists, because they certainly don't apply journalistic standards to their reporting. That's it for now. Terry Ryder from hotspotting.com.au. Thanks for listening. Talk to you again soon.